Good night. Okay, you ready to go next?
Ready?
Thanks for being on.
All right, we'll call the meeting to order. Minutes to approve from last month, or actually May and June. Move it.
Second.
Okay. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right.
Thanks, Dan.
Janine, are you on virtual or? All right, so we'll skip Janine in case she comes on. Kyle, you got anything for us?
I don't have anything to add to the report.
You got any questions for Kyle? Oh, okay, well, thank you. Here,
Yeah, my report, the only thing I have to add, I want to call your attention, I added a spreadsheet with the projects that buildings and grounds are working on, it's in the Dropbox. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to try to answer.
any questions for Gary?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I do. One. Yeah, I know that you got a hold of Zach just the other day and he was going to get back to you about
Yeah,
county office building project.
he indicated that he should have the report to us by Friday.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Anybody else for Gary? You want to do your resolutions?
Sure. CW1 authorizing an agreement with the Cayuga County Community Culinary Institute for the use of county-owned parking spots for a determined time frame.
Anybody want to move that?
Move it.
Second, Christina,
Oh, second, yeah.
questions about that? And if not, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? PW2.
Okay, CW2 is authorization to enter a service agreement with Lidstar for security equipment, including printers, cameras, controllers, card readers, and other related equipment. So one we do every year.
I have a motion.
Move it.
Okay,
Second.
Second. Are there any questions on that one?
I'll assume it's a budgeted item.
Yes, it's in the budget.
Yeah.
Is this one that we chop out every now and then, or?
Actually, IT is planning on working on that this year. I talked to Tom Bunn about it. He's planning on working on it this year. We haven't done it in a couple of years, but he's planning on doing it this year.
All right, no other questions, all in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right, PW7.
PW7 was authorizing an agreement with the city of Auburn for the use of county-owned parking spots for a determined time frame.
I have a motion.
Move it.
Second.
Second, Christina. All right, this was also, Dave just told me, because, and Fred said too, that it's only gonna be maybe a week or two. It's not gonna be really the,
For a period of time.
yeah. It's not gonna be as long as what it might say, but that's just put in there.
It says up to 2 months.
Anybody got any questions for Gary on that one?
I did just a question about capacity. I assume there's with the county employees parking as well. Is that?
I would say it's going to be snug, but I think it's doable. So it's, if we had a huge party up here or something, it could be a concern, but for the most part, there's usually that many slots up there.
Thanks, Gary.
And just so I can speak a little about, Jeff called me probably 4 weeks ago, said that they're remodeling and they're finishing up the parking garage. That's why they're doing this. They need, they got like 8 different locations throughout the city that they want the people that park in there to go. It's not the city employees. They park in the city at the city hall. But it's the other people that have permits that are in the city parking lot that won't be able to park there. And he told me it's only like 7 days, 10 days maybe. Just so everybody knows.
I could comment on it.
Yes.
Over the years, they've let us use the parking garage, but we needed parking too. So it's kind of a good gesture, I think, on our part.
Been there, done that. Yeah.
Thanks.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you, Gary.
Thank you.
Anything more, Gary? Or?
No, that's all I have. Thank you.
All right, Doug.
Good evening, everyone. I want to point out a couple of items in our updates. One is that we filled almost 80% of our seasonal positions. So it's a big win for us. We've obviously been light on staff for several years. So there's a lot of activity up there. And so we're happy to have filled all those. We have started the concert series this summer. We've had anywhere from 800 to 1,000 people at the first two nights, the first two Thursday nights. So those have been obviously very successful. We did movie nights last week, had 20 families or so come in, and we'll build that throughout the season. As far as I can tell, and Gary can correct me if I'm wrong, the crowd that we had on July 3rd filled all of the parking within the park to capacity, filled the high school lots to capacity, filled the side of Lake Ave, Wasco Road, East Lake Road, and West Lake Road. So that's it. Those are all the roads. So pretty much that's all you could fill that was there. It was a great crowd. We didn't have any incidents there. We cleared the park within 60 minutes of the end of the fireworks and cleared most of the roadways and intersections within about 90 minutes throughout the city. So that's really all of our law enforcement partners, both with the city and with the county and with the state, and they just do a fantastic job. So I really have to thank all of them. You know, our emergency management partners, they're all there too. We didn't need them, fortunately, but they do a ton of setup for it. So it was a very successful event for us, and it was nice to see it back on the calendar. So obviously that's a big deal for us, and a big thank you to all those organizations. And obviously the Emerson Foundation for supporting the fireworks and the symphony playing and Symphoria playing, very well received. And it was a great night for us. So that's really all for the parks up in Sterling. We're getting ready to pour the slab, so the floor in the facility there, and then that slab will be there till they erect the structure probably in the spring. But all of the other site work is going to continue: the outdoor classroom, the shelters, the pergola, a lot of the hardscaping. They're going to be paving the parking lot next week. And then today, the New York State Secretary of State Robert Rodriguez was there. We went over the site, looked at the site plans. He hadn't been to the facility before. And as usual, people are shocked at the scope and size of that facility and the lakeshore and the property that's there. So it was a good opportunity for us to show it off. I thank Steve for coming up. Steve brought Dave Nelson with him. Jim Basile was there. So it was great to have the support of our local staff, our leadership, to really show that we can take these projects and make them a reality too up there. So it was great to see. Other than that, we've got some ongoing trail work. We're still on schedule to do a bridge install in September. And I'm probably forgetting something, but that's most of the report. Are there any questions?
Anything for Doug? I know I was at the Ag Museum meeting last night, and like here it says 2023 budget preparation has begun. There's things that are gonna have to happen because there's some roofs that are in some pretty rough shape.
Yep.
Just to let people know that things won't last forever.
Yeah. We have
How old is that
big
building?
infrastructure. The original
Is
section of the original building was a shelter.
Yeah.
You can imagine,
that's real.
quite a long time ago, and it's grown significantly, obviously. Since.
A lot of steel roofs that just need to be recoated. In today's world, it's 75 to 100% more than what it would have been.
Yep.
So, just thought I'd throw that out there. Anybody else got anything for Doug? No, all right, Doug, you got resolutions?
I do. PW4 is authorizing a 5-year agreement with the Friends of Emerson Park. That's the new 501c3 group that was organized this year, this spring. Even though they were helping us out last fall, they finally got all of their certifications back from the state. They obviously help us, as all of our friends groups do, specifically with that property, with volunteer efforts, with fundraising. They're a great communicating and a community advocate for us. And so obviously we'd like to codify that relationship by having an agreement with them.
We have a motion first.
Go ahead, yeah.
Motion to discuss.
I'll move it.
Second, just give it to one of the two of them. All right, Dave.
Yeah, Doug, can you get a hold of Sarah tomorrow or the next day and give her the information about the Friends of Emerson?
Sure.
I'd like to send them a letter and just thank them for doing everything. They're doing a great job, as you know better than ever.
They are. They've helped tremendously.
Thank you.
Lydia.
I do very much appreciate this group. I have had questions from constituents, however,
who had wanted to be part of what was going on at Emerson Park had not been aware that there was a group forming and was a little disappointed that there was no method of partaking. So is there information that can be provided that I can send along and say, here's how you can participate?
I can send out the link to, they have their own website and everything too. So you can volunteer there, you can provide your contact information so they can contact you, and I can provide that to everyone.
That's
Link
great.
to the Friends of Emerson. Yeah.
And then liability for this group, what's the umbrella? I mean, is the county legislature responsible for any liabilities incurred by these folks? Is it under your umbrella? How does that work?
So on their activities in which they're volunteering with the park and they work as a promoter, they bring in entertainers, the liability that we have, the liability insurance we have with them, their liability insurance lists the county as additionally insured.
All right, and then do you, whoever that umbrella is, have any oversight over who their volunteers are? Are we doing any screening efforts or anything along those lines as we would for any other part of the organization?
Right now, most of our current policies with volunteers is they're coming in, they're registering with us, we get their contact information. We're doing a background check on every single volunteer we have. But they also aren't contacting any at-risk, high-risk populations or things like that. They're generally speaking, they're under the supervision of someone from, like in our case, the Parks Department, and they're there performing grounds maintenance, mulching and weeding and things like that with our staff.
And my only concern in that is, well, constituents have spoken about contact with children and things like that as far as park activity.
Sure. We don't actually actively run any youth programs, so we're not having it. We don't have even the opportunity to connect the public or a volunteer with a youth group because we're not integrating with any of the youth.
Thank you.
Sure.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right, PW5.
PW5 is authorizing a 5-year agreement with the Friends of the Sterling Nature Center. This has been going on now for about 20 years. We've had this relationship that comes up every 5 years for review. County Attorney's Office has reviewed these agreements and made some textual updates to them. Other than that, the agreements are unchanged from previous agreements.
Good.
Second.
Any questions?
I'd just like to ask Dave if he could send them a letter too. I met this group about 3 weeks ago at a Saturday event. Some of the people that are in this group were children at the time that was a farm. So there's a long history of membership there. And it was interesting to listen to their stories about when they grew up there before it became. And if you get a chance to go up there, there's a timeline on one of the beams the property could have been used for. We all know Argini and NYSEG bought it to put a nuclear plant up, and then it was going to be a dump, and then it was, and fortunately, our predecessors from the county purchased that property somehow. We obtained it, and I want to thank them. They did. And the county went and sold half of it, kept half of it. It's become quite the asset for the county.
Dave,
Yeah, and when you just send something to Sarah, please send something for that too.
Sure.
All right, Dougie, thanks.
Sure.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Dave.
I think Doug and Gary can both, collaborate that a lot of these, it's kind of like the Ag Museum Friends boards and all that. I don't want to sound ageist or whatever, but there's the volunteers that are on these things keep spring chickens. They really, I mean that in a good way. They bust their butts. It's mind numbing the amount of hours that some of those people spend in those places,
And a lot of them were doing it before they were retired.
Yeah, and then they retired and they kept doing it. They're ungodly hours doing stuff. It's kind of mind blowing. So, but thank God for them, because without them,
Agreed.
you'd be paying people to do those things.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. Any other groups that you may think deserve a letter? Let Sarah know, would you?
Yes.
Like, like you just said, about at the museum and
Sure.
anybody else you think.
Okay.
All right, thanks, Doug.
Yep.
Thank you, Chairman.
All right, any other questions on PW5? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, PW6 has a slight caveat, so you can just explain that.
So PW6 will go along with the four, it kind of codifies our relationship with the Friends of Emerson Park. 6 allows them to be organizes them as the listed promoter for the summer concert series. They did all the contacting for the entertainers that we have. They have done a lot of the logistics for that. Obviously, that's a big undertaking as far as all of the food trucks, all the vendors that are there and the entertainers. So after reviewing that, we would like to use them as promoter, pay them as a promoter. They would therefore pass the funds through to the bands. It takes a little bit off of our purchasing and finance office, basically, where they're the vendor and they can hunt down all of the payments for these, pay them that way. So just as a promoter, only they'll charge us a percentage. So that's always a good deal for us, not to have to actually pay a percentage to a promoter to run these concerts throughout the season.
Do I have a motion?
Second.
Okay, I'll make the motion, Brian can second.
Move it.
Good enough.
I'll do both of them.
Any questions, Jim?
And I'm sure you've already done this, and that's with our accounting
Fred
audit,
did it.
it all moves.
We currently do this, the Agricultural Commission, we used to do it for the fair. They would organize the fair, the entertainment, a lot of the vendors, and they were our vendor or our contractor that managed that event for us. And so that's how the funds would flow through the organization. Friends of the Sterling Nature Center. So it's definitely in line with our other organizations.
Figured as much.
We're basically cutting out a step.
Yeah.
so to speak.
Any other questions? Keeping methods?
It's just that it's how it's tracked. I'm sure I just was curious. The carryover seems like it's something we do every 5 years, but we do some similar stuff. So contract out security, and they give us the bill.
Does this have a timeline on it, Doug? Yeah,
This was just for this season. W6 just refers to this.
just for, okay. Anybody else with any questions on PW6? Not all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you, Doug.
Thank you.
Brian, what is this? No update.
What about vacation? I missed the date, the deadline. The only thing, we got some projects we're working on, I have an update on Oak Hill Road drainage with soil and water project, third way complete with that. We also have 2 others that we're gonna work with them on, the Tollgate Hill slope failure and the Glen Haven slope failure. Tollgate is coming slow. We don't have the engineering back yet from the vendor that's doing that. And salt shed, the old salt shed is gone. And July 25th is the date the contractor's coming into the salt footer, new shed. And then after the footers cure out, late August, we'll be setting the walls, paving the floor, and on October 1st, they're gonna install the building on the walls. So we'll be up and running by mid-October.
How does that affect you for normal salt delivery?
I will be good. Yeah. We moved everything to our other shed, so if we need to, we can bring some back if we can't get it brought right in. The fuel system, I don't have an update on that. I have got a couple calls and I haven't heard back how the tanks are coming. Snowplow contracts, I have all but 4 towns and the 3 villages information back. So by next month, we should be right on target for a resolution for you guys to approve those. That's all I have in my report that I didn't send in.
How far along are we on our paving?
Paving, we've got 2 roads left. I think we're gonna run out of money, so we're gonna look at it's Atwater Road and Ledger Road, the last 2. big projects. We might be able to get some shim work done this year, prep for top next year. But the increases are killing us.
Anybody got anything for Brian? All right, thanks, Brian. So Janine, are you on by any chance? You do have a resolution? Oh, yeah, yes, we have one. I don't think she's on anyhow. All right.
PW three is just to authorize the chair to sign an executive order 14 and 16 certifications, which are basically saying that we don't do business with Russia or any entities that do business with Russia for any of our federal aid projects.
We actually have to do this.
Yes, we do.
Okay, can I have a motion?
Move it.
Second,
Second, Jim.
I
Any questions?
have to do this?
Apparently, any questions?
Yes, we do. We have a $14 million project that, yes.
Oh,
If not, all in favor?
Aye.
aye.
Any opposed? All right, well, no, thank you, Brian. All right, I don't think Janine's in, so if you guys got any questions for her, you're gonna have to get a hold of her. Anybody else got anything for this committee?
I just want to say how much I appreciate being here today.
Can I have a motion to adjourn then?
Move it.
Mike, second?
Second.
Second. Oh, you're a tool. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That would be you, Jim, because you want to be here longer, right?
No.
There you go.
Right. Okay, I'm gonna call the meeting to order at 6:10. We have everyone here. We have Mr. Basile,
Here.
Legislator Calarco, Legislator Muldrow, Legislator Raffini, and Legislator Shea and Legislator Strong.
Thank you.
Set.
Awesome.
Okay, we're gonna start with the minutes to approve.
Hello, Mark.
Second.
Any questions or discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That's carried. Thank you. We have no resolutions this evening, so we're just gonna go through department reports. We'll start with Steve Lynch. Hi, Steve.
Good evening, everybody. I did my update a little bit differently this time. I just highlighted a few, I think 4 primary projects I wanted to touch base on, and then just listed the rest of the projects that are generally ongoing. I want to let everybody know in your inboxes is a save the date reminder for the Owasco Lake Watershed 9-element plan. Presentation is going to be Monday, July 25th, so a week from this coming Monday, at BOCES at 6 p.m. It'll be recorded and put on the website so people can look at it afterwards and people have an opportunity to comment. The consultants will do a presentation on the plan and the plan's recommendations, and that's going to be on the 25th. Also, we have been working with Soil and Water and the Health Department, the City of Auburn, Owasco Watershed Management Council, and 5 state agencies to review the watershed rules and regulations that were submitted in December of 2019 for Owasco Lake Watershed. They've broken it out into sections of the proposed watershed rules and regulations, and in each one of those sections, they've broken it out into things that are okay, that don't need to be changed, things that might need some clarification, and then things that need a little bit more discussion. So at each meeting, we take one of the sections, topics, and we break it into those 3 buckets, and we have an extended meeting about it. We had our 3rd meeting today on pesticide chapter, and we have a meeting, will come up in a couple of weeks, probably. It hasn't been scheduled yet. Might even be this month. On, what's the next one? Petroleum and coal and, yeah. So we're saving the big topics till last, which is going to be sediment and nutrient management and so on. So those are the big ones that have to do with agriculture. Those will probably take more than 1 meeting at least to work on. But I wanted this board to be aware of that. And I put the general timeline in my outline. The meetings are being hosted by the New York State Department of Health, which is the lead agency at the state level. And I would just say that they're being careful about the information that they're putting out there. They're not trying to be, they're being transparent, but they're trying to be careful because they've got 5 state agencies involved and they have to be careful what they release, I guess. So I put as much information in there that I felt was helpful to the legislature to see. I don't have any resolutions. We have not heard on Emerson Park, we have not heard a response, negative or positive, from the Emerson Foundation on our grant request for $250,000 to put in the CFA application at the end of this month. We're hopeful they're aware, we know they're aware of our time frame for trying to get the grant in. So we'll hopefully that they'll look at that favorably and come to support the project so that we can put it in and take advantage of this opportunity to get a $500,000 grant. I think as evidenced by great participation in some of the concerts that they had so far, just with the local bands, that there's a real opportunity to tap into a real good market in central New York for shows over there. And
Madam Chairman,
infrastructure helps that.
can I just ask a question?
Sure.
Steve, is it worth calling Dan and following up because they've had it for like a month, right?
Yeah, Doug Delastrito has been the person that's primarily been the liaison to Mr. Fessenden. So I think he is in contact with him, Dave.
All right.
But if you'd like to call and say this is the chairman of the legislature.
Dan and I go back along. I just don't want to hurt the opportunity, but if you think it'll help, I'll be glad to do it. All right, thank you.
Very good, thank you. Any other questions?
So, what's the drop dead date for you to know to send in the application? And is it like an online application where you?
It's an online application. I would say that the deadline is the 29th, so our drop dead is the 28th, because if you press the button on the 29th, the system may crash.
So I guess what's the end result if they do not? What happens if they do?
I
not?
guess we have some options.
That's
This,
we're into this timeline.
we don't have to, it would help our application. The competitiveness of a grant application is helped tremendously when you have all the funding committed and in place. It's not a state requirement that we have the funding cemented and inked on the line in place on the day that we push that deadline button, Jim. But I wrote the resolution, for better or worse, thinking of the legislature, that I don't want to submit a grant application for something I don't have all of the funding in place for. If the legislature could always provide us direction, meaning the planning department, that, you know what, put the application in and we'll keep working on the funding and see what the state says to the application. That's one option I could think of right off the top of my head. Another option, of course, is for the county to put the money into the project. And I understand completely that's a very big ask from the county.
Any other discussion or questions?
I might just say thank you very much for your participation in the planning that we're doing with Brian and with Shireen for the small business ARPA funds and how we're going to be distributing them. You're very valuable and appreciate contributions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Steve.
I still have one more question, and it's really for us as the committee. So, you know, giving Steve some kind of direction again until after this is, how are we going to, are you going to coordinate with them?
Yeah, the legislature meets on the 26th, so this is the last time the committee meets.
How are we going to stay on top of who's going to keep us posted on whether Friends of Emerson are doing something? I mean, we've come this far down the road. We've committed a lot of finance and funding to this, in agreeing with what Steve said about applications going in where you can show that you have all this different funding. If we get denied, you know, then what?
If we get denied the CFA, right? And so that
You want to get as many points as you can on your application as possible.
right. Well, historically, you know, we have already designated an amount from the legislature. I mean, unless this body is willing to help out with that, of course, that's always a welcome situation. But you know, in lieu of that, we push through with the application, see what, I mean, typically that's what we've done. It's just
Okay.
wait for the response.
That's what I'm asking.
When you're moving on and asking for donors, and I know specifically the one, you know, you're discussing, you know, the chair may engage. I've engaged in the past. You know, it's a busy month. They may have trouble getting together as a board. They, you know, so who knows what's gonna happen.
I'm sure this group, I mean, Emerson Park to them has got to be what Sterling Nature Center is for us up our way. So
You mean to the foundation?
to the foundation,
Yes.
they must know this critical timeline.
Right.
I'm just,
I think the trouble the foundations are having is the market. I think you all know that their donations depend on the market, and we know where that is. Steve, let me ask you a question again. What do you need exactly? 250
Yes.
total? That's either from us, Emerson, or
That's what-
whoever.
To fill the project gap for this application, yeah.
And what is the county giving you already?
1 million.
given a large portion of it.
But if we don't have the 250, we get nothing. Right or wrong?
But we can't do the project without the 250 as it's proposed. I could put the grant application in without the 250, but it's a less competitive application, in my opinion. And I would, at a minimum, I would need somebody to amend the resolution at the 26th legislature meeting to say staff is authorized to put in the application, notwithstanding you don't have the gap funding at this point.
Well,
So I guess I'm under the impression that we were just moving ahead anyway. And if the gap funding is there, that just helps the application. If it doesn't, we're still moving ahead.
Okay, and that's what I was at. I wasn't
Right, so
sure. I
that's,
want to
that's
make,
the impression
because
I
we don't
have
meet
from
again
it.
as a group,
Right,
except as a full ledge on this item. And if there's any adjustments that need to be made between now and then. And I'm not trying to put the pressure, but
No, no,
chairperson,
that's-
so I'm asking the, I
yeah,
don't understand fully that if we are gonna hit send and figure out the gap later, or are we gonna, someone, Dave has offered to contact.
if we commit to this, then we're committed to it. I mean,
Well, that's the other part. If we send it in and we don't have that gap, we gotta figure out as
as what,
a
how
legislature,
we can come up with
how we're gonna come up with that, should the application be approved.
Yeah, if the application is approved, that's when you have to, before you sign a contract with the state,
Right.
you have to show that you have all of
All
your
the funding
matching
in
funds in
place.
place.
Okay.
Typically, in order to have a very competitive grant application, you have all of that funding in place by the time you hit the deadline submission button. And, somebody at the state looks at it and says, wow, they've got, 80% of their project funding, and they're only asking the state for 20%. Which is a good competitive position to be in.
it. Right. So I know that we were thinking that it would be favorable, like we thought that it would be possible to have that answer by now.
Right. And I also wasn't comfortable coming to the legislature and saying, let me put I don't know where I'm going to get the other $250,000.
I know.
Let me put the grant application. And I was, trying to be,
My question, because I don't think you're gonna hand this application without the 250,000 that you need, and how less competitive will it be? 'Cause that's what I mean by that is the problem, this is gonna be a problem, or do you think, because we allocated, was it 1.1?
it's 1.75 million.
1.7, so you're 250 short. Will that make the application so unattractive that, because it's a very competitive race, I would imagine, for the money.
All I could say, it's been my experience that grant applications that are complete and have all the funding in place get a higher rating than ones that are speculative about, because the state doesn't want to go through the whole process of approving a project and, making the announcements and everything else. And then all of a sudden, the community doesn't come through because they make the announcements long before it's time to sign the contract. You see what I'm saying?
Do you have a pathway for the 250?
We have a formal grant application into a foundation.
And do you know when you hear the results of that grant application?
been waiting for a month.
That's what we're waiting.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they don't have a deadline of when they have to give you an answer. That's what I'm asking.
Well, they don't have a deadline, but the deadline we've set by this resolution that's coming through this cycle this month was the 29th, when I have to put the application in.
It's a dilemma.
Okay,
Thank you. Last time we talked to Doug as the liaison, he felt pretty good about the application. And would it be a little bit expeditious if we could ask the chairman to make the phone call and kind of test the waters to see where we are?
Sure, and I
And
want to
then
say
we can
that
act if need be.
I would add, and I think Aileen and Dave, the Emerson Foundation has been extremely generous to date. They paid for the $212,000 programming plan that all of the concerts are based on, that we're doing now, that all this work is based on. So they are definitely invested in the park. it might just be a matter of logistics for them getting their board together and looking at what other applications might be in front of them right now. Remember, it is CFA season, so we're probably not the only entity asking for support for a grant application going in.
But that he might get that impression, what's the challenge in getting the funds for us?
Yeah.
If, it's a phone call.
So
Up
is,
to you.
is this board interested in having a discussion about helping to fill this gap with county money? I mean, I'm hearing that
So
people are
the
not
answer is yes
exactly.
and no from me.
Yes, I'm hearing.
I
I
think
think this
the
part.
question is,
Go ahead.
I think we gotta start with the chair,
Right,
but the issue is if the chair doesn't get it, he's gonna call,
right.
and if we don't get an answer shortly, you know, we may have to push back our deadline. It's our deadline, which was the 20, it's not the,
No, it's the
No, it's the
deadline
grant
for the state.
so we almost gotta make a decision today.
Well, I just wanted to know that, I don't know if we have to make it today, as Elaine said, we can hit send.
Right.
With that not in there. If I say something wrong, just tell me. You wouldn't be the first one that has.
And it's okay, I'll look to Steve.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
We hit send, we're 250 short on our application. It would look more favorable if I heard Steve right, if everything, all the boxes were checked. We got one box that's not checked, depending on the rest of the applications. But somewhere along the line, we would hope that this Emerson Foundation group would continue to be supportive of the park, that Emerson Foundation states it alone. But down the road, if we are successful, even without that knowledge of that yet, and they decide not to do something, then we're under the gun to.
I think we're under the gun now, because if we do that, Jim, I think the issue might be, we don't have attractive enough application because they think we're short $250,000 and we might get denied all around. That's why I said, like, it's almost like a gamble. I don't know what the right answer is.
Legislative Fetcher.
The $1 million that we set aside, why couldn't, if we need to, why couldn't we use 250 out of that?
We're using the whole $1 million for this project.
That's part of the,
That's part of that?
Yes, sir.
it's part of the application.
That's too much money.
I'm glad he looked at you that time. Not you. He looked
Could I
at me.
propose something? Could
He
we,
always tells me what,
could we
Always do much work.
almost tell him to put it in with 250 with the support of the legislator if the Emerson doesn't come through? Because it's almost like we're that close, but yet that far away. I think.
Well,
we
I
should
have
do
to
better.
say, I mean, it's been my experience that the fact that you're even open to having that discussion is different than in the past. I'm very pleased to see that that's something that we're all very concerned about. I would love to think about, you know, to have that conversation to square up the 250 by the county. At the end of the day, we own that park. It's our responsibility.
Exactly.
We have shunned our responsibilities with a lot of our infrastructure and parks for decades. So I think it's a great, don't get me started, because I can go on all day, but I think it's a great investment. It's a great investment.
I think, and I agree with you 100%, Haley. I think if I know you can't read the future, but if we do get this and we remodelize that Deauville Island, we're gonna make a lot of money. Right or wrong? I know maybe I'm putting you on the spot, Steve, but that's what we're doing this for, is to bring in income.
To help pay down certain things.
there was, and I sent this document to the whole legislature. I sent the program report that was done about a month ago. I think I sent it to the full edge. And I don't want to say the number, Dave, because I'm afraid I'm going to get the number wrong. And
Don't
then
be scared.
I've got it right on my desk if you want me to go get it.
But I think they estimated that once the concert series got up on Deauville Island, and just that alone, not other programming, could eventually, and they were talking about 5 ticketed events a year. They were talking, it could bring up to $250,000 a year to the county, just as, you know, shared revenues from the programming.
And it would certainly help tourism. I mean, to have something like that on the lake.
Well, it does help a lot of things, as you know, for economic development, just making our county more attractive and competitive with other counties. I could go on.
Please.
So Clarka, and then we'll go to Rafiki.
So two things. So first, so when we're envisioning this concert, are you thinking like what Paper Mill Island in Beeville kind of situation where you could host a larger, a more popular group?
Right, the
Okay.
way, yes, what you're seeing now with the sort of the free concert series is sort of to prime the pump. So that would continue to be that way. There would be a series of concerts, a better venue for those concerts and so on and so forth. But 4 or 5 times a year at a minimum during the summer, there would be ticketed events like you're seeing at Beacon Skiff, which just had, 2,000 people over there or 3,000 people last weekend, to Paper Mill Island that can fit about 2,500. You can comfortably fit in the space that's designed on Doble Island, 3,000 to 5,000 ticketed attendees.
So you're saying that's what we can, we could do that with this 250 to 3,000 people? Like how many
I'm sorry,
people
so-
can fit at Emerson Park? That's what.
The new venue,
Well,
if it
venue.
gets built, could
Now-
host between 3,000 to 5,000.
Including.
I want to be clear that this isn't the money to build the stage and to build the concession stand and so on. This is the money to put the infrastructure in to support all of that. What we're trying to do is leave the big ticket sort of sponsorable elements like the stage, like the concession stand, like the destination playground available for sponsorship money. I would love to see the new core steel stage go up on Deauville Island.
I got a meeting with
And
them
if
coming
you're
up.
listening, I hope they,
I've got a meeting with them coming up
So
with Jason.
my second thought is if we're clearly not meeting as this committee again before the next thing, if Dave reaches out to the Emerson Foundation to see if he can find some information, if it doesn't look like we're gonna have a yes or a no from them by that point, can we put together a resolution that we can introduce and discuss at the full ledge meeting on the 26th? Because then we can make that decision and you can move forward the next day and hit send or not hit send, depending on what the full ledge decides.
I am completely open to that, and if this committee is, I think that's a great solution.
So again, the pressure's back on Dave.
Listen, Dave. you best-
It won't be the first time. it's
Hey, you gotta
either.
Legislative Rafiki?
So I think that we committed a significant amount of ARPA funds to the park. Why not take some of those ARPA funds and allocate it here?
The ARPA funds are in there.
That's what I'm talking about. Those ARPA funds, can't they be distributed to this 250K?
are you talking about the ARPA funds that were committed to the park?
Yes.
It's all in this already.
1 million of that is ARPA funds.
So
250,000.
it's $1.75 million. 1 million is the county ARPA funds. $500,000 is the maximum grant we can request, and that leaves the $250,000 cap.
Didn't we do like 4 million?
I think that was the
ARPA funds?
Sterling, was that Sterling Nature?
No, that was only, I got cheated. That was only 861,000.
No.
Not that I know that number.
The one I-
We just talked about it.
Towel in here somewhere.
So if I'm not mistaken, we committed like $3 or $4 million to Emerson Park of the ARPA funds.
No.
No,
What
1
did we end up
1
committing?
million.
Just the 1 million.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Not just, that's a significant
Well,
amount. Yeah.
Sorry, yes,
That
it is
is-
significant.
That
I
money,
thought that there was more.
and that money is for this purpose, for leveraging more funds. They've been able to use that in different, all kinds of.
You could just amend the resolution on the 26th. Also,
Right, absolutely.
I mean, obviously we want, I'm sorry, Dave, go ahead.
No, I'm waiting.
Obviously we want this Emerson group to stand up because we could maybe find other things to do with that funding, but it's what project to the county.
Is it okay? Do we have any other requests from any other foundations, Steve? Or just Emerson?
at this point, we do not.
Okay,
What we had hoped to do was to go to the other foundations for these more sponsorable elements and try to put a coalition together of corporations and
okay.
There's been initial conversations when I was chair with a few. And then, depending upon how this goes, it would be time for you and I to get together to go back to those folks, talk about. There's been a lot of conversations and a lot of ideas. So that's a good time for me to pass that to you.
Good.
We certainly went around and we talked to a lot of people over the past 2 years. For getting us to this point, so.
I'm sorry, Aileen. That's a gem up there, and it's always been underused by this county for decades. It really has. And now's our chance to do something, finally, with that Bovell Island and with Emerson Park, something that'll benefit everybody in this county and a lot of visitors. And if we don't take the opportunity when we get it, it may not come along again. That's just my opinion.
So if I can do a straw poll of this committee to see if you're interested in amending that resolution and bringing it on the floor for further discussion to fill the 250 gap. Can I see a show of hands to see who's in favor of that? So 1, 2, 3, 4 out of 7, and me, a 7. So that, Mark, you too? Thank you. Okay, great. So we'll do that. And I'll get with you, Steve, and we'll work through that and we'll bring it to the floor to discuss.
If needed.
If needed. But in the
Yeah,
meantime.
if this doesn't work out, if this works out, we don't need it.
Not want to
No, I get
know
it.
the path forward.
I'm
for us.
really, really happy though to continue the conversation because this is, it's a welcome conversation that I guess we haven't been having typically in these chambers. So I appreciate everyone's input to this process. Okay, great. And then in the meantime, we'll see I'll check with you, Dave, and we'll see how we make our way there.
I'll get together with you and Doug and we'll go over and I'll call Dan. All right.
Something today, because I don't want to do this ad lib.
I think you've talked
Over
to
a
Dan
beer.
quite often.
I think that you can do it for sure. Okay, great. Well, thank you. And thank you for the update with the watershed rules and regs. Appreciate that. Okay, up next, Kelly Kay.
So basically, I was gonna talk about the summer youth employment program. That started July 5th. We received about $180,000 from TANF money, which is temporary assistance for needy families. So that's for youth that are low income. That's what this program primarily serves. We had 80 applications this year. My goal is to enroll 50 kids in summer employment. We did enroll 50 kids and they started July 5th. We had a ton of applications this year, so we're still going through those and looking at our year-round program to see if we can still serve some of those kids, but we did have well over the applications I expected for summer employment. We have 50 kids placed at 22 work sites, which is fabulous, and we've enrolled some kids in our WEO program as well through some of our outreach for summer programs. So we can basically dually enroll them in the two programs and be able to serve them longer. That's not something that's typically happened, and that's something that we're doing, and it's great to share funds that way through state and federal funds. I think a few months ago, I reported that we had our first 2 youth in training for welding. And now we have a CNA enrolled in training. So that's also great because we're enrolling more kids in training. Through our county email, which you guys all probably received, Diane sent the new hires for Cayuga County. I'm happy to say that one of those new hires was one of our youth that we placed here at Cayuga County Buildings and Grounds. And the county hired them on as a full-time civil service employee on their own, subsidized employment. So that's a success story for us. That's our mission, is to place kids in work experiences, get them experience, provide them with support, and then they get hired. So that's great. And I'm happy that my employer hired one of our youth permanently. So, and his picture came through email. I think it was today or yesterday or today. Yeah, I think today or yesterday. Anyway, following along in my report, I'm just going to skip down to additional updates. I reported that we were going through a fiscal audit. It was my first fiscal audit as E&T director, the first fiscal audit of my fiscal person who replaced Linda Carr, 42 years. So it was our first fiscal audit. I believe Aileen and Dave received our findings. We didn't have any findings, so I was so happy about that. It was a very long audit, time consuming, and I was amazed at how much information we had to provide. No findings, one recommendation for our IT inventory list, not a big deal. We'll make sure we fix that so it doesn't become a finding, but pleased to say everything went smooth with that. I'm working on some staff training for the Career Center, not just for my staff, but for state staff, specifically safety and emergency training. We did have a situation in employment and training, unfortunately, the first time that we really went through an act of violence in our office. And so we, it was a surprise to us in our process and how we handled it when a crisis comes up and you think you know how to react, and we didn't react. We did, but it could have gone all wrong. So we are working with the college on security and emergency training and how to respond, because that opened our eyes to the fact that that can happen anywhere, and it happened to us. So that is something we're working on with all staff in the Career Center, and it's definitely my priority to make sure that the office is safe. Working with Dave and working with the college on that. So something that we're working on, in addition to our active shooter training that we do provide to the staff every single year. So we're going to look on some enhanced security training. And then the last update I have, I've been working with Mosaic. They are the rebranded name from Seneca Cayuga ARC, serves folks with disabilities. They had to close a lot of their day head programs from COVID, and they're reopening many of them. So they're desperately need for staff. So I'm working with them on to address their challenges and how we can incentivize current employees and bring new employees on. They're looking at filling 60 positions so that they can open the day hub again, because we have all of these participants that are in need of day services and day programs, and unfortunately they closed many locations and went to part-time. So working closely with them, invited them into the Career Center to recruit on Tuesdays and Wednesdays through some of our DSS groups and some of our job searching groups. So I think they're pleased, but that is something, a new project that we're working on with a local business.
Any questions for Kelly?
Yeah, state employees
Yes. They actually
up to one a day or something, or
one a day.
are we? Praise Jesus.
One a day
Gee,
for the governor.
for the governor,
Yeah, so one a
the
day.
governor should have to sit behind that desk for a day.
Okay, we're gonna keep Jesus and the governor out.
Huh? Yeah. All right.
Any other questions
Thank
for
you for
Kelly?
what you do.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Okay, on our agenda up next, CETA. Many of you may have seen the article that came out over the weekend. Bradley Broadwell, who met, I think, last month, has moved on. So they have the vacancy. I do know that CETA was in touch with the chair of the CETA board today, of CETA executive board. And we should be getting some information as soon as tomorrow about their next plans moving forward. I talked with the chair about it this evening. So I will keep you all informed of any changes that I hear about.
So I wasn't aware of the article. First I'm hearing of this, maybe I missed it. Apologize for that.
That's okay.
Any just came on and left, and any information or feedback as to
The feedback that I have is it's an HR issue. They are a nonprofit, so, and they have an executive board. I'm a member of CETA board. I'm not a part of the executive board. So the executive board and their HR committee oversee the directors and all the staff. And what was told to me was that it was amicable and a separation. So I guess from me, what I hear is a fit situation, but I'm not on that board or part of that decision making.
I was asking the question because you spent a lot of time and effort to get an employee. And then
I was notified after that too, as well. After that was.
interesting.
It's, you know, I have let them know that's a, you know, concern that's very surprising. So.
Yeah, what did we miss in the interview process or whatever? Okay, enough said.
Yes.
There have been some things going on in CETA for a little bit, it seems. Is there something that this group can help with?
So I think what I understand is that there may be a new approach. So I'm looking for more information as soon as tomorrow. And so, you know, we'll see. And I have learned that they are discussing, you know, how I guess how it's best structured for longevity and for success. So that's about all I can share. I mean,
it's less about sharing and more about if there's something that we can do to help support what's going on there. Because if I have a problem with him, and then I have a problem with you, and then I have a problem with her, it's probably me, right? And we've seen, and we've seen some things that have been occurring, right? So if there's something that we can do, I think that we should offer ourselves.
sure, yeah, and you know, like I said, and we'll see. I mean, we fund that organization, but we do not oversee that organization. They are not a department, so we do need to let them be in charge of their messaging. Like I said, I am not a part of that executive board. That decision was made, and I had no idea about it until after it was made. So I have spoken, like I said, to the chair. I have let them know that I felt the communication has been poor, and looking forward to increase that communication. And then from the legislature to them, from them to us, I should say. And then I'm looking for, you know, so clearly we have some structural issues that we need to think about.
And how can we help?
Yes, exactly.
Thank you.
Yes. Any other questions? Up next, we have Doug Kears. Hey, Doug.
All right, good evening, everybody. Over at the district, it's our busy time of year, just like many of you, the weather's been great, so construction season's going up. I do want to, thank everybody that did go to the farm show, the farm tour over at Oakwood. It's good to see people there, take advantage of the tour. Maybe hopefully some people learned a couple things about, life on the dairy farm, and there's gonna be more tours coming up. I know even at the district, we're looking to do one possibly in the fall, trying to finalize some dates to try and showcase some of the projects that you may hear me talk about month in, month out. So it's trying to highlight one of those live and in person or a couple of those, but not make it too crazy to be there for 4 or 5 hours, So it was good to see you guys there. One of the other events that we held in partnership with the planning department and cooperative extension and Nucor's gonna be helping out, and highway department's gonna help out, was the tire collection event. We held that back in June. And we got probably close to last year's amount, maybe estimate about 5,000 tires or so, working with Nucor to continue to recycle those heading into next week. So it was a great event, went off seamless, and it was pretty busy early on. I mean, there were a lot of people, a lot of tires came in this year, more than we were expecting. So it's stabilized for a while. When we look at the track record for it, it was busy early, and then we got all those tires out of the system, so it started to taper off. Then it stayed normal around 3,000 to 2,500 tires. Now it's jumped back up to 5,000. So appreciate all the assistance everybody gave for that. That was great. Weed boats right now, our ABC program, we cut Otter Lake for a couple of days. They had a lot of problems up there. It's really choked out. It's a small water body, 270 acres or so up in Cato. went in, cut that, plus it's close to home, so to speak, first time out on the water. If anything's wrong with the boat, it's nice to do it and only run, a couple of minutes up the road to check it out. So it worked great. And then last week we moved into Owasco Lake, headed down south, cut around the marina. We're heading, now we're just working our way north. So we should be on that water body for about 3 weeks. And then I know Fairhaven's probably a little lower on their water level than normal. So I know the weeds were coming up after talking to some residents up there. So they'll be next on the list. And we're trying to avoid temporarily Cayuga Lake because they got that pro fishing tournament that's going to be there. Anybody that likes fishing knows that, fish like structure, weeds are structure. And last thing we want to do is impact the professional fishing tour that's coming to Cayuga County by cutting all the structure on Cayuga Lake. So we're going to try and be flexible with that. And then we'll move into Cayuga hopefully right after that tournament. So that's a tentative schedule. Boat's working fine, and that's good news. And Brian mentioned Oak Hill Road earlier. Brian Filch is the highway superintendent. That's a pretty involved project that we're working hand in hand with the highway department. It's a great partnership, and we're gonna probably be on there for maybe another 3 weeks. Depends on what we hit. We hit a big rock today, the size of a desk. So
Yikes.
the size of that desk takes a while. And we have a rock hammer that's just like chipping away. So you want things to go smooth, but you run into obstacles. What are you gonna do? Busy time of year. But I'm glad you can question.
Any questions for Beth Harris?
Could you remind us, we ordered this new weed cutter, or has it been ordered? It was like 18 months or something. Somebody asked me up in the Fairhaven area, and I would get back to them.
Yep, just like everything for orders, it's gonna be 12 to 16
12 to
months
16
or
months.
so. Yeah,
See, we already improved. right?
depending upon materials, parts, everything like that.
And then the existing cutter, will that remain in service? Is that being used as a trade-in? What are we doing with the?
The value of that is they don't give a lot of high value on trade-in. So I was gonna run that. So 2 boats, 1 transfer. So for example, on Owasco Lake, larger lake, or Little Sodas and or Cayuga Lake, the larger water bodies that we cut. If we put 2 cutting boats, 1 transporter boat, we should be able to get in and out of the water body a little faster. That would be the plan. And the staff and everything like that. I'm assuming that the first cut with that boat would probably be in 2024 in reality.
Our Mets town supervisor asked for your assistance, and you were very responsive, and you coordinated getting solutions, and this was about downed trees in our waterways, where our town of Mets for months has been complaining about being told where to go when they ask for help on the waterways, and it's always in different places. So thank you very much for actually listening, giving positive direction. And I see that Supervisor Emerson reached out to you and shared the plan. So thank you very much.
Thanks. Thank you, Beth. Appreciate it. Dan Welch is away. He's actually helping build some homes with a group right now, which is really great. So responsibility for the county, which I think is good. But he's doing it on his own time, but he can't be here this evening. So we're gonna end the evening with Karen Cool, tourism.
Good evening. I always get to end these evenings.
Yeah.
Which is nice and tired. I pick myself up. Tourism, right? Well, I'm actually glad to be back. As you know, I've missed a couple of meetings. My life has been a little in turmoil the last couple of months, so I'm back in the
Glad
group.
to see
and
you
things are
back.
going great.
Yeah.
You know, one of the positive things in that is it gives you so much faith in our staff because they did wonderful. We banged out some wonderful projects in between. We've been really, we've had great reception with the media we've been reaching out to. We've hosted record number of travel writers coming to the area, and they've all been very pleased with some great content and gotten us recognized in really nice ways. I presented at the E-Tourism Summit down in Orlando, Florida in June to talk about the positioning of the region and some of the work we've been doing, and that we get some great reception, nice follow-up from that as well. Just a couple of other programs that we're working on that I want to bring up. I've mentioned a couple of times that we've been working with Wayne and Seneca County for the Treasures of the Erie Canal. So we're highlighting a lot of the product along that way. Tomorrow morning, we're going to be in Fort Byron at the Cycle the Erie Canal Challenge with a booth and talk about the tourism offers in Cayuga County. So that'll be a nice, fun thing. And we're giving out some, cookies and apples and that kind of stuff to the riders. And we've been doing some investment in the international market, specifically into Canada. We've been involved in several programs to try to work with the Canadian. It's been interesting because the Canadian market, although the borders were open, there hasn't been much movement. So we've been working with a couple of different agencies to try to figure out what's going on. But we anticipate that that will pick up in the coming months. Lots of other things in the report, but those are the ones I wanted to highlight. So, any questions?
Thank you very much for all that you do. You're very important to bring tourism in, and we appreciate that. One concern that I have that I wanted to bring tonight is that there have been some controversial events and things going on at our Harriet Tubman Center that some of my constituents have complained about. During the day, family time, words used, things shared that shouldn't be when children are around, when elderly are at the farm stand. And I was asked who is in charge of the Harriet Tubman Center and why are they allowing this to happen in that venue? So I just wanted to bring that up to the group tonight. I'm not sure if this is the appropriate venue, but when we have people coming in and touring, we don't want them seeing negativity going on, especially at a place that is named after someone who has done so much for so many.
Lydia, was there a time in the day or was there a certain event or certain people there that were not part of the event or,
It was stuff going on with the Roe v. Wade, controversial, and there were signs with four-letter words that are not appropriate for seniors and children to be seen, and to use a format. I'm sure that this would not be the way that we would like Harriet Tubman Center to be portrayed.
Are you, just a question, are you talking about the recent
Yes,
event?
yes.
When was that? That was like 4 days ago? Or
It was
5 days?
Saturday.
It was Saturday?
I was thinking Sunday, but yeah.
It was Saturday?
You're right.
It was Saturday.
Was it after the farm market? I don't remember. I wasn't.
No, because the farmer's market is not there anymore.
Oh,
It's
okay.
on Genesee Street.
Oh, I didn't know
So
that.
there's no market in that plaza anymore. It's moved over to Exchange Street and on Genesee Street itself.
I would say that's the city of Auburn. No, City of Auburn would give
bid, what's her name from bid?
Stephanie DeVito.
Stephanie. I think Stephanie should be at least advised of this, don't you think?
I know the young women who put that event together worked with the city and they had a permit.
That's what I'm assuming, that they have to have a permit. They did. Okay. Yeah, because this unfortunately is not.
I also think that, all fairness to Karen this here today, that's an emotionally moved topic. And it doesn't reflect to hear some travel and tourism. And I think that whenever you have something so emotional, you're gonna get people that have a permit, that follow the process, they're gonna show up with some issues or some anger. And I think to even have a conversation about it and try to prevent it for the next time. We could talk about it, but this is a rare, the law's been there for 50 years and all of a sudden it was changed. So you're gonna get those emotions. So I think that, I definitely don't think this was the proper format to bring this up, fairness to Karen, but
I'm sorry,
but
apologize.
so,
And
and I think that even the Harris Center, that's exactly what that you know, I don't really know their mission statement, but I know that that's a position where something like that probably would take place either way. Depending on what side you're on, whatever way it was gonna go, it would have probably been there. I think this is hopefully a one and done type situation.
I agree. I agree. And the reason why I thought it was appropriate is because her team works very hard to get people to us. And something like this could turn people away. And maybe we can all help to keep that from happening. We don't need emotionally charged things happening when people are coming to our area, and then how does this look, regardless of what side you're on?
I guess, and that's what the permitting process is with the city.
I think the only thing that's gonna happen is, I haven't heard this, right? I have a fairly good sized district. I haven't heard these complaints, but I think the only thing that could possibly happen, if everything is true, or we don't know this to be true, they would probably not let that person have a permit again, I would imagine. I mean, that's the only thing that could possibly stop them if this is
Certainly.
if this is the situation. I don't think there's anything else you could do. I mean, Jim, you're a mayor, so like when somebody does something and gets out of line, I think you just never allow that person to get a permit if that's the case, right? You investigate it and and it might not even be the person that got the permit. It could be somebody that showed up.
Right, you have to ferret that stuff out. It's just unusual venue to ask for a permit at such a place. It's just my opinion.
And that was part of, and that was part of the discussion. I mean, this is our venue, ours, every single one of ours. And this should not be allowed, this divisive topic should not be allowed where it's for all of us.
But all fairness, I think that's a conversation for the city. I don't think that's what are we talking about here?
I don't think we're gonna win this argument.
Yeah.
I don't think that's.
By the way.
I think that.
I personally don't think it's an unusual venue.
I think it is called the.
No, it's not unusual venue at all.
She was fighting against something and was going against the status quo, and I think people voicing their opinions on things, that is exactly the place that represents people fighting for what they think is right.
A good place for a Second Amendment permit.
If somebody wanted to have a permit and have that event, I don't have to agree with it, but yes.
So
Doesn't
That's
mean I
exactly
support
what
that, but yes.
I mean, that's, if you're gonna do, obviously, that's the place where I think they do those type of events at, and that would be a Second Amendment.
But we're trying to draw people from all over the country and the world to that place.
I do, I know, I was just saying too, that it
It's
also,
not fair to
it also
carry
can
that, yeah.
attract people from all over. Also, but we're not the city, we don't have to worry about that permit, we don't have to worry about that environment, And I don't think that the conversation really needs to be part of this Karen's report, so I'm gonna move on with the agenda. Is there any questions for Karen about tourism and her report?
Other than, I'm glad you're back.
I know,
Yep.
yes,
You've doing a phenomenal job
we
throughout
appreciate
the whole
it.
entire county. Appreciate you.
I'd also like to thank you for that FAM tour. I went on it and it
Oh,
was
you
lovely.
did?
Yes, I did. So
Good.
it was really a great experience. So thank you for setting that up.
I'm glad you went. I know, sent the invitation to all of you, and it was a wonderful opportunity. It's one of the great things that happened while I was away, and it was handled beautifully.
It was great. Yes.
Would this be the time to talk about your conduct on that? No.
Say drink beer. We stopped at some.
From a local. All right, well, thank you so much. Folks, I just wanted to say, everyone, please stay healthy. COVID is still alive and well. I went through my house. It's surprising that we're still in this space, but take care of yourselves. Try to stay healthy for the rest of summer so we can have some fun and enjoy our time when the sun's out in Central New York.
I did talk to the health department today, and they're going to have another clinic and certainly involve the county employees and the city employees.
Wonderful.
That'll be out pretty quick.
Wonderful, good to hear. All right, any other new business or any other things coming for this group? I appreciate the dialogue this evening. Have a great evening. Motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
Thank you.
Any discussion?
Adjourn.